For decades, the asteroid was the easy answer. It was a neat, clean closure to the greatest murder mystery in Earth's history. But what if the end of the dinosaurs wasn't a single catastrophic event, but a slow, agonizing death that
basis. The impact was an undeniable, terrifying act of cosmic violence. But for paleontologists and geoscientists,
if the impact was so universally devastating, why was the extinction event so selective? Why did certain lineages,
while the magnificent non-avian dinosaurs vanished entirely? The answers, hidden within the stratified layers of...
in this exclusive 3D deep dive, we journey beyond the impact site
to uncover
the perfect storm model.
We will reveal how the planet had been fatally weakened by forces.
And why this collision of catastrophes was the precise, brutal gateway that opened the door for humanity's dominance today.
Let us begin with the undeniable spectacle of the impact itself. 66.
The projectile, a chondritic asteroid roughly 6 miles wide, struck at an estimated speed of 12 miles per second.
the crater that formed was initially over 60 miles deep before collapsing into the structure we can faintly trace today? The immediate consequences were apocalyptic. A super tsunami, potentially thousands of feet high.
Global-scale earthquakes rippled through the planet, so powerful they would register at magnitudes exceeding But the true, global killer was not the blast wave, but the ejecta, the vast plume of... Imagine firestorms erupting simultaneously on every continent. Forests burst into flame, incinerating
This intense, initial heat blast was estimated to have killed unprotected land animals within them.
Lying precisely at the transition between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods is a thin, dark layer of clay found
Most crucially, this layer is enriched with iridium, a dense, platinum group element. Following the firestorms came the darkness. The soot, smoke, and fine dust ejected from the impact site choked. Photosynthesis, the very basis of life for most complex organisms, ceased. Plants withered, and
This was the mechanism, scientists believed, that caused the rapid die-off of 75% of all species. For decades, this scenario was complete, a dramatic and satisfying explanation. But
was the planet truly a healthy, thriving ecosystem, only to be instantaneously murdered by fate? To uncover the true vulnerability of the Cretaceous world, we must travel halfway around the globe from the impact site. Here, massive, eroded terraces of basalt rock sprawl across an airy lardance.
This was not a single, violent eruption. It was an enduring, relentless geological crisis that
Answer it. Picture a series of vast fissure eruptions, where lava flowed, not from a peak, but from deep fractures in leaves.
Researchers estimate the Deccan Traps released enough molten rock to fill the entire Mediterranean Sea, with a massive volume of
The Deccan eruptions represented not an instant killer, but a long-term stress test on the entire global ecosystem.
Sulfur dioxide, reacting with atmospheric moisture, created pervasive acid rain, which ravaged terrestrial.
Following the SO2 phases, massive amounts of CO2, a potent greenhouse gas, drove temperatures up.
The result was an environmental roller coaster that pushed the planet to its breaking point. For millions of years, the world's ecosystems,
The oceans, the great buffers of global climate, were slowly acidifying, jeopardizing the plankton that formed the base of the marine food web.
On land, these continuous fluctuations in temperature and rainfall demanded constant, rapid adaptation.
Paleontological data supports this theory of pre-impact decline. Studies of fossil diversity in the period lead us now.
The ecosystem, in essence, was sickened and exhausted before the final blow. The long-term... If the asteroid impact was the final, crushing strike, the metaphorical bullet, then the prolonged...
The target was not healthy and robust. It was critically weakened and teetering on the edge of collapse.
That's powerful. It was not a single disaster, but a cataclysmic synergy, a precise, fatal intersection of deep time
Imagine the planet in the moments just before impact. The air is already laden with volcanic gases. Then, the asteroid strikes. The impact event immediately compounds the pre-existing environmental fix.
Derived from vaporized sulfate-rich rock in the Yucatan, was exponentially more lethal because the atmosphere was already...
Sunlight was not just dimmed, it was essentially extinguished for months, halting photosynthesis on a planet.
There is compelling evidence suggesting that the Chicxulub impact may have acted as a global-scale seismic trigger, causing... In this scenario, the asteroid didn't just kill the dinosaurs directly, it shocked the Earth's crust, effectively causing the volcano.
This explains the crucial question of selective extinction. The small fraction of species that survived, primarily
Precisely the conditions created by the protracted volcanism. They could hibernate, shelter underground, or subsist.
The non-avian dinosaurs, on the other hand, required enormous, stable food supplies to maintain their gigantic...
And their sheer size made them vulnerable. They were too large to hide, too reliant on stable plant.
The asteroid provided the sudden, final shock, but the dinosaurs were already marching toward the brink, weakened.
It was the moment the planet crossed a critical tipping point and...
Without the volcanoes, the dinosaurs might have rebounded. Without the asteroid would have volcanism.
And it is in this violence that our story truly begins. It is a story of two colossal natural forces, one from the deep earth, forged in fire. The final verdict on the greatest murder mystery is clear. The culprit was not a single assassin.
Yet, this tragedy was simultaneously the ultimate opportunity. The death of 70...
Without this perfect storm, the age of the great reptiles might have continued, and our own journey through evolution.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the deadliest moment in prehistory.
What is your take on the perfect storm model? Do you believe the volcanoes or the asteroid played the larger role? Let us know in the comments below.
If you love exploring the cutting edge of science and historical recreation, please hit subscribe to the Prehistoric Planet 3D channel and ring that notification bell.
Aspect ratio, 16:9. Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9. Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
This is the iridium layer, evidence of the catastrophic impact.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
This hyper-realistic simulation demonstrates the catastrophic potential of a magnitude 10 earthquake hitting a major city.
While the data here only goes up to the present, the trend is unmistakable. We are currently...
This intricate fossil provides a detailed look at the flora of the Carboniferous period.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
As the indicators rise, we approach the critical zone.
Aspect ratio, 16:9. Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
This stylized cross-section reveals the intense heat generated by the core.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
A cold, distant sentinel. The moon observes the vibrant blue marble suspended in the silent.
The single impact hypothesis involves a collision that debris which coalesce.
The impact winter nearly broke us. Yet even in the deepest freeze, the seeds of recovery waited for the sun.
Here, miles beneath the surface, a new world is violently born as the tectonic plates collide. Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
For millions of years they have roamed this earth, titans walking through the endless fog.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9. The relentless power of water carved this masterpiece over millions of years.
The Earth's atmosphere is a complex system of interconnected wind patterns, constantly shifting and shaping our climate.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
The mountains stand eternal, yet even they must yield to the relentless forces of wind and ice.
The current extinction cries staggering.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
This is the Great Rift, where the very skin of our planet is being violently torn apart by the magma below. While the dinosaurs ruled the day, this tiny ancestor thrived in the twilight, securing the meal that would ensure its survival.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.
Aspect ratio, 16:9.